There is a name that, when spoken, casts its shadow over an entire country. A name intertwined with blood, betrayal, and power. Cosa Nostra, the terrifying mafia of Sicily. A place where crime was a profession, murder was a contract, and silence was a law. A world where loyalty was of the kind that led to death, and betrayal had only one way out: a bullet to the head. But where did this nightmare begin? What caused a group of shadowy men to build an empire that even the Italian government dared not challenge? The answer lies in a past buried, and now it's time for it to come out of the darkness. I am Elias Blackwood, your guide in the darkness. Welcome to Crime Darkroom. Sicily, the 19th century. An island that had always been under the control of foreign powers. Arabs, Normans, Spaniards. Each came and went for a time, but what remained was poverty and injustice. The central government of Italy was too weak to establish order. So, the people turned to a new force for protection: secret brotherhoods, men who ruled from the shadows. These brotherhoods initially started as small groups that protected farmers and merchants from bandits and the oppression of landowners. But they quickly realized that true power wasn't in protecting others, but in controlling them. Gradually, they themselves became the new lords of Sicily. Through extortion, threats, and murder, Cosa Nostra infiltrated the heart of the island's economy. Landowners paid them for protection. Markets, ports, and even the judicial system gradually fell under the mafia's control. The central government tried to stop the growth of this monster. But there was a major problem: the code of silence, or omertà. No one spoke, no one betrayed. The police, judges, and even politicians were either bought off or eliminated. Cosa Nostra was no longer just a criminal group. It had become an underground empire ruling from the darkness. In Cosa Nostra, betrayal only had one meaning: death. The code of silence, or omertà, was the most sacred principle of this mafia. Anyone who cooperated with the police, even if they were a member of the mafia boss's family, had only one sentence: execution. And these executions were always swift, ruthless, and carried a clear message. Betrayal means destruction. But joining Cosa Nostra wasn't that simple. Membership in the mafia had a test, and that test was nothing more than shedding blood. Anyone who wanted to be part of this empire had to commit a murder to prove their loyalty. After that, a special ceremony was held. A paper, with an image of a saint, soaked in fresh blood, was placed in the new member's hand and set on fire. In that moment, that person was no longer an ordinary individual. They had become an honorable man, one of the members of Cosa Nostra. But this empire couldn't survive without order. The power structure was extremely precise and organized. The boss, the top man, the one who has everything under control and whose word is law. Underboss, the second in command who takes over rulership in the absence of the boss. Consigliere, the special advisor to the boss, the one who directs strategic decisions. Capo regime, the heads of various teams, each commanding their own group. Soldiers, the main mafia forces, the ones who carry out the dirty work. Associates, those who are not yet official members but work for the mafia. Cosa Nostra was not just a criminal group, it was a shadow government, a system that operated with its own laws. Crime never sleeps, so neither do we. If this world intrigues you, subscribe, and enter the darkness, because here the darkness becomes light. Cosa Nostra was nothing without its leaders, and among them, three names cast a shadow over the history of the mafia: Salvatore, Toto, Rina, the monster of Sicily. A short man, but with a fear that ran through the veins of all of Italy. Rina, with over 1,000 murders, was the most ruthless boss in the history of Cosa Nostra. Judges, politicians, even women and children. No one was safe from him. The Italian government lived in terror for years until they finally caught him, so Bernardo Provenzano, the boss of bosses. After Riina, Bernardo Provenzano took control of Cosa Nostra. But unlike Riina, his method was silence, not bloodshed. He remained in the shadows for years, running the mafia through coded messages. After 43 years on the run, he was finally captured, but until the very end, he never uttered a word against the mafia. Luciano Liggio, the man who waged war. One of the oldest mafia leaders, the man who led the Sicilian Mafia into a civil war. Liggio eliminated his enemies one by one, but eventually he too became caught in this cycle of blood. The mafia changed with Liggio. It became more brutal, darker, and turned into something that even the government could no longer stop. These men were not just criminals, they wrote history with blood. When Cosa Nostra committed murder, all of Italy trembled. Judge Giovanni Falcone and Paolo Borsellino, two men who dared to challenge the Mafia. But the Mafia had a clear message: no one survives against us. In 1992, with a massive bombing on the Capaci Highway, Falcone was killed along with his wife and bodyguards. 2 months later, Borsellino was also murdered by a bomb in Palermo, Sicily. These murders sent shockwaves throughout all of Italy. Cosa Nostra was not just a criminal group, it was a secret army. In the 80s and 90s, Sicily burned in the flames of a civil war between mafia families. Bombings, street killings, and attacks on police stations showed that the Mafia feared nothing to maintain its power. This war left thousands dead in its wake. From heroin to cocaine, the Mafia conquered the drug market in Europe. Smuggling routes from Latin America to New York were all under Cosa Nostra's control. The billions in profits transformed the Mafia from a local group into a global empire. No empire lasts forever, not even Cosa Nostra. After the murders of Falcone and Borsellino, the Italian government launched an all-out attack on the Mafia. Hundreds of Mafia members were arrested, underground hideouts were uncovered, and widespread operations crippled the Mafia's financial network. The Maxi trial of the 1980s was the largest Mafia trial in history, where hundreds of Cosa Nostra members were sentenced to life imprisonment. With the arrest of key leaders like Salvatore Riina and Bernardo Provenzano, Cosa Nostra was no longer the invincible force it once was. Internal divisions, betrayals, and pressure from the police weakened this underground empire. The code of silence was no longer as strong as it had been in the past. But is this Mafia still active? Yes, but not like before. Cosa Nostra still exists, but weaker, more hidden, and more cautious than ever. Now Mafia groups like the 'Ndrangheta and Camorra have gained more power. But one thing hasn't changed. The Mafia never completely disappears. It just changes the way it operates. Crime never sleeps, so neither do we. Cosa Nostra may not be as powerful today as it once was, but the darkness it has created is still alive in Sicily and beyond. Where light has no way, darkness speaks for everything.